Hi everyone, welcome to my top 10 games that are debuting at GenCon 2016. Hopefully this will be a list of games that are available to buy and they'll be available at GenCon for the first time. Now, I'm not 100% on all of these things, so some things might have been pulled and I haven't noticed, or maybe some things have been available just before the con, but hopefully we'll get there. So before the top 10, I thought I'd mention a few things. So things that have been covered on the channel before. If you enjoyed those videos, some of those are going to be available at the convention. Maybe some of these are for the first time. So there's Project Elite and all of its various expansions. Its big alien box, the Adrenaline expansion with all the extra stuff. They're going to have some copies of that there. They're going to have, that's at Artipia, I should mention. Then Stronghold is going to have Kraftwagen, the V6 edition, and the Pursuit of Happiness, the new edition, the second edition, which I did a video of all the new cards and things that are going to come with that. Then there's a couple of promos that are going to be available that I thought were worth mentioning. First is the Goons of New York 1901. So in this little promo pack, players who control certain districts are going to get special boss cards, and with those they're going to be able to place goon tokens around New York, and they are going to earn points based on certain criteria. And this little promo was designed by 100 children in a game jam, so that sounds very interesting and probably worth picking up. And also Legends of Andor Call of the Scrolls. I really like Legends of Andor. This is going to be a mini expansion that's previously been available in other languages, but in English for the first time, and it's going to be given out at Hall Doors, I don't know which ones, on Thursday and Saturday by someone from Thames Cosmos. And so on to the top 10. So at number 10 is Ticket to Ride Rails and Sails from Alan R. Moon and published by Days of Wonder. And this is a game that seems to be shaking up Ticket to Ride a little bit. There's boats and trains now, and there's going to be a deck for each instead of just the trains. The wild cards are still going to be in the train deck, and when you take cards from the display, you're going to decide which deck you refill the display from. At the start of the game, you decide how many ship tokens you're going to take and how many train tokens you're going to take, and that kind of determines your path for the game. And you can swap later, but it's going to cost you points to do so, so you have to make sure you're making the right decision. There's also tours. Instead of just tickets linking one space to another, there's tours that might link a few different places, and if you match the tour exactly, you're going to score a lot more points than if you were just linking certain things on normal tickets. Number 9 is Saloon Tycoon by Robert Couch and published by Ryder Games. And in this, we are saloon owners in the Old West, in the Wild Wild West. And we are building and placing tiles, kind of in 3D as well. We're going to be placing cubes on the tiles at certain points and then building up our parts of our saloon. And we are doing this to basically make the most money. We want to attract the wealthy businessmen, the prospectors. It's the Old West. And trying to avoid the outlaws who are going to give us negative things throughout the game if we attract too many of them, and that's Saloon Tycoon. Number 8 is Legendary Civil War, designed by Devin Lowe and published by Upper Deck, and this is basically just more Legendary. If you don't like Marvel Legendary, then it's probably not something that's going to interest you. I don't think it's going to shake up things entirely, but it's more cards for Legendary and it's more slightly varied mechanics. It's based on the comic version of Civil War, where it's Captain America versus Iron Man and the superhero registration storyline. And a few things I noticed, there's Iron Man as a mastermind in it, because depending on whose side you're on, can be a bad guy. And there's these divided hero cards as well. One card of each hero's deck is going to have one of these split cards, where it's basically two miniature cards. So you'll have the cards sideways and have two miniature cards side by side. When they're in your hand, all the symbols count for everything that you can see. So if something says reveal this type of symbol, it doesn't matter which side of it's the card that it's on, you can just reveal it and you're okay. But once you've played it, you pick a side, and that is going to be the effect that's going to generate. And so every hero's got one of those cards in their deck, but certain heroes, like there is Storm and Black Panther, their entire hero deck is split cards, and that should be really interesting. So that's Marvel Legendary Civil War. Number 7 is Oceanos. That's designed by Antoine Bowser and published by ELO, and this is a card drafting game where we are underwater explorers. We've got these submarines, these cardboard submarines made up of jigsaw pieces, and we're going to be drafting cards. So for example, in a 3-player game, the person dealing the cards waits while the other 2 people pick between, you draw 2 cards at the start of the game, they'll pick which card they want to play, and each of them will hand the other card back to the dealer, and they will get to pick which card they want. So the other 2 people will be picking things that don't benefit the start player that much to give the cards back to them, but also trying to pick the best cards for them at the same time. And later on, when people get upgraded, because the submarines, as I said, are made out of jigsaw pieces, and through certain actions of the game, you'll be able to upgrade parts of your submarine. So you'll be able to draw more cards, send down divers to get treasure, get fuel to be able to play more cards, all these sorts of different things. And once people start drawing a ton of cards, that's going to end up giving the start player a lot of options, whether they've upgraded their periscope or not. And that's Oceanos. Number 6 is Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, and that's by Matt Leacock and Chuck Yeager, and published by Z-Man Games. And in this, we're taking the tried and true Pandemic formula and putting Cthulhu on it, but adding new concepts as well. So we're sealing portals and shutting down cults instead of traveling around the world eradicating diseases. Investigators can lose their minds. There's a sanity die now, and if you take certain actions or certain things happen, you're going to have to roll that sanity die and hope that your investigator manages to hang on to their sanity, so that you can go through portals now. There's various portals on the map, and you're going to have to roll that die to go through the portal, but you might absolutely need to shut down the particular cult that's about to take over and summon Cthulhu, which will end the game for everybody. There's 10 different old ones to face with unique powers, and I suppose the only thing to think about is once you need to get it in your hands and play it and decide, is it different enough to Pandemic to keep? But I'm not sure of that yet, but I'm really, really looking forward to trying it. Number 5 is Terraforming Mars from Jacob Frixelius. I'm sorry if I butchered your name there, Jacob. And it's published by Stronghold Games, and this looks fantastic. It's set in the 2400s. Mankind is beginning to terraform Mars, and huge corporations, which is who we play as, are trying to affect all sorts of things in the environment on Mars to basically make it habitable. And we play over multiple generations, because this is a long project, and there's tiles on the planet itself. The board has got a representation of the planet itself, and we're going to be putting tiles on that to show our progress of making it habitable, and we're going to be trying to balance all of these different things and complete the project to be able to earn the most points. There's over 200 unique project cards in the game. There's a solo mode that looks really interesting. Everything looks great about Terraforming Mars. Number 4 is Order of the Gilded Compass by Bernd Eisenstein and Jeffrey D. Allers, and that's from Grey Fox Games. And this is a reimagining of Alia Iacta Est, which was a dice placement game from a few years ago, which has never been in print while I've been looking for it. But now we'll be able to get it in this new theme. Basically, it was set in Roman times, and now we are explorers trying to get treasure and all sorts of things. We're Indiana Jonesing around, and it's a dice assignment game. There's lots of variability in it. There's different buildings that can come out in different games. You pick from a certain number of them, and there's some interesting dice placement as well. For instance, there's a building where if somebody puts a 5 down, then they're going to get the person that's underneath their dice. But if someone puts a 4 down, then it slides them along, and they're now going to be getting a different person. You need a specific person to go in a specific coloured building that you've got. And so you need to work out what dice you're going to put down to end up in the right space. Or there was a building where you can put a dice down being the first person there. The second person there has to put the same number you put down plus another number. The third person has to match those 2 numbers and put another one down. There's lots of interesting new ideas on dice placement, and that's Order of the Gilded Compass. Number 3 is Covert from Kane Klenko and published by Renegade Games, and this is the designer of Fuse, of Dead Men Tell No Tales, which is over there somewhere, and more. And those 2 games that I've just mentioned are fantastic enough. Fuse, I mentioned in the review, it's certainly my most played game of the year, and that's just a little game. This is a big board game, and in this we are controlling a network of spies during the Cold War, and we are racing to complete missions, and we will be moving around the map. We'll be getting new missions. We'll be trying to crack codes. We place dice to be able to do certain actions, and these action circles where we place the dice need people to place dice numerically adjacent to dice that are already placed there. So if you're the first player, you can place anywhere. After that, then the next person is going to be restricted. They're going to need certain numbers to be able to place next to you. And that seems a really interesting way of doing things. There's also a code, kind of a briefcase combination thing on the board, and that's going to have tiles that can be swapped around once per turn, and you're trying to match codes that are on your personal cards, but obviously everybody's trying to match their codes at the same time, so one person trying to match theirs is going to completely mess up yours, and that's it. All just sounds like a very interesting game. That's Covert. Number 2 is London Dread, and that's designed by Asker Johansson and published by Grey Fox Games, so 2 from Grey Fox Games. This is a co-op investigation game set in Victorian London. There's a narrative going on. We are trying to uncover plots to advance a storyline. There's usually 2 chapters to play through for each story, so multiple sessions, an overarching storyline. There's lots of things that sound very interesting about this. We alternate between a timed planning phase, where in real time we're going to have to decide what we're going to do to try and uncover these mysteries, and there's an untimed story phase where basically everything that we planned gets resolved, it happens, and we find out how that affects the story and did we succeed or fail. It sounds very interesting, and I'm very excited to be able to get that in the UK at some point. London Dread. And number 1, Mansions of Madness 2nd edition, designed by Nikki Valens and published by Fantasy Flight Games. And I will say in advance, this does have a little advantage over all of the other games in that it's just been announced. It's announced last week, I think. And so while all the other games have been announced and bits of information have come out gradually and built up, and we've had time to decide whether we want them or not and kind of reasonably look at the games, Fantasy Flight have just busted this out, and I'm still reeling from it, so maybe we'll find out when it actually gets here if it's as amazing as I'm feeling at the moment. It's fully cooperative now. That's the huge thing about it. Before, it used to be a 1 versus many game where a player played as the keeper, controlling the exploration of the mansion, the monsters, the puzzles in it. Now an app is taking care of that, so it's a fully cooperative game. It's a solo game now. You can play as 2 heroes and play it solo. That is a big thing as well. It's app driven, so I'm aware that that's going to put off a lot of people that just don't want apps in their board games, but it's just kind of handling some of the variability in the game. There'll be different monsters available, different non-player characters that you can talk to and try and form bonds with to make them help you. It's compatible with the 1st edition. If you have that, it'll use tiles and characters and monsters from the 1st edition. There's options in the app to say that you've got different expansions, and it will integrate them into the game for you. We are fighting all sorts of different terrors in the Cthulhu theme, and we're trying to solve a mystery as well. That seems really interesting. I want to see how that works. And there's 4 different modes, I think, built into the app, and they range from a game that's going to take 60 to 90 minutes to the last one that I saw, which takes 4 to 6 hours. So I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to play that mode, or even if I'll be able to play that mode, but it sounds like there's a lot built into that box, a lot of potential there, and I can't wait to see what it actually plays like. And that goes for all of these games. I can't wait to get my hands on them and actually see what they're like in action. So that's it for my top 10 of GenCon, and I'm not going because I'm here in the UK. But if you're going to GenCon, then I'm very envious of you. There's these games plus many, many more amazing games, and so that's my top 10. Let me know if there's any games I haven't mentioned. I'm sure there's games I haven't mentioned. There's Seafall, for example. I'm sure that's people's number 1. It's a huge game. It sounds amazing, but it's 3 to 5 players. So as a mainly 2-player game, it's unfortunate for me, but it doesn't seem like something that's for me. But let me know what games you're interested in GenCon, and if you're going and what you picked up. And I think that's it for top 10 GenCon. Bye, everyone.